Hello, welcome back to another episode of Set Violin. Today is gonna be an intellectual discussion. No, not really. A question that we sometimes get asked is that, how do I actually get into classical music? How do I learn more about it, right? Or if you are musicians, how do I introduce my friends? I mean, our channel has grown so much over the years. In the beginning, not even my mom watched our videos.
The views were from our editing.
I think our early viewers, shout out to our OG supporters, were mainly musicians, and most of them classical musicians. Now we often run into you guys. A lot of you actually don't even play a musical instrument. And so we thought I'd make this video kind of a guide to delve into this rich world of music. We've kind of broken it down to 3 ways of going about this. The first part about getting in touch with classical music actually is listening and discovering repertoire. So repertoire is basically
pieces.
A list of pieces in the classical canon, if you will.
And you've probably heard a lot already, right?
Yeah.
You just might not have associated that to classical music yet.
Explore around. Don't force yourself to listen to things you don't like yet. So just find the things that you vibe with, right? So a common starting ground actually is film music. If you're into like Pirates of the Caribbean,
Star Wars
soundtrack, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, there's good stuff. They're good stuff.
They're really
right?
good stuff.
I think from there you can kind of find what classical music kind of led into that, right? So for example, Star Wars, you can check out Holst, the planets, which was the ancestor to that, right? Like,
actually, some anime also uses Holst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like kind of recomposed it. They kind of like changed it up a bit.
And sometimes they actually just use classical music.
Yeah, that's true.
Twilight had, don't ask me why I've seen Twilight, but they had Claire de Lune.
Of course.
What's that? Westworld.
Westworld.
Reverie from Debussy.
Yeah.
Or you might be, into the kind of like YouTube 1 hour calming study music. That might be your thing. I'm not judging.
Not thinking about someone in particular.
And so you might go down the path of exploring Mozart piano sonatas or like intimate chamber music. It's more about just start listening and don't force yourself to enjoy something you don't like. If you found some
Bruckner,
like I actually didn't mind one of my first symphonies I got into was a Bruckner, actually.
Really?
I just hate playing.
Yeah, I hate playing it. No, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
Playing and listening is very different things.
Shostakovich was one.
Yes.
Because Shostakovich evokes imagery. So some music is not meant to evoke kind of imagery, but other music, it really paints a picture. Like Mussorgsky pictures at an exhibition.
Oh, that's like...
It's almost you can see a painting in your head, right?
And some of them will also take time. One of my first symphony pieces I played was Mahler 5. So I remember when I was like 15, I played it, I was like... I just want to play Sarasate or Wieniawski or like kind of the showy pieces on the violin. But these, it's like fine wine. It just grows on you.
Mahler's definitely one that grows on you more. Beethoven as well.
Yeah, Beethoven does take a bit of time.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like Beethoven in the beginning, but there's more that comes later, right? I think we've made videos before about pieces to get into to start off. So go check it out. I know one of my earliest orchestral pieces was Barber Adagio for strings.
Oh, that's a great one.
It's just great.
Oh, Smetana is also quite nice.
I think the second one, and this kind of ties into it, is to learn about composers and also learn about music theory. For example, the Smetana, you can find notes online to see how the composer uses a certain effect in the strings to make it sound like water, or like Strauss, this bit is meant to depict this action. So you can start learning about the context of the piece. You can learn about the composer. For example, Beethoven wrote this piece as he was going deaf. That adds more meaning.
You can feel that transition, the phase he's going through. Yeah.
Or like Shostakovich wrote this as a reaction to the government censoring his artistic ideals. That was a really cool story. So Shostakovich 5, for those that don't know, it's like the most passive-aggressive symphony. Shostakovich 4 was censored because it was too anti-Soviet Union spirit. I mean, there's a bit of controversy, but the generally accepted viewpoint is that's what happened. And so Shostakovich 5, he basically goes, you want me to write something that's like got that spirit?
Yeah.
And so he ends the symphony. You know how the violin goes, dun, dun. It's like tonic chords for like 2 whole pages. That's him basically saying, you want me to sound victorious? I'll freaking... It's like
he's
a passive
almost like
aggressive.
trolling. He's like da 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 da.
So it's very sarcastic sounding music. Once you understand the history, you understand there's a reason behind why he's so bitter and ironic.
Yeah, and even going early on, like Haydn.
Yeah.
So he commissioned all these pieces. That's why he wrote like 100 symphonies. So many symphonies in one go.
So I think finding out about the composer time periods, that's one thing to learn about as well. Baroque, classical romantic 20th century, you know, all the different subgenres, minimalism. And then on the other side of that, I think that's really cool is to learn about theory, right?
Oh, yeah.
For example, forms, sonata form. You start knowing what to listen out for. It's like, oh, that's the first subject. That's how the composer brought it back. That's the development section.
And then the recapitulation is like, oh.
You know, sonata form traditionally was meant to go from tonic to dominant, but Schubert went from tonic to medium. What? And so you kind of appreciate what these composers are doing with the music.
Yeah,
right?
and if you listen to it carefully, some composers like tease you.
Haydn did that a lot. He played musical jokes. Because I remember I was writing a paper on Haydn, and he would play on people's expectations of musical structure, right?
Yeah.
So what he did for one symphony I was analyzing was, you know how in the sonata form first movement you have exposition, development, recapitulation, right?
Yep.
He went exposition, development, and he did a fake recapitulation. He's like, not jokes, it's still the development. People then were trained to hear out for, oh, this is the first subject again in the tonic key. So he did the first subject again for like 3 bars, but then in the wrong key. And then it goes back a bit, and then there's a real recapitulation.
Yeah.
So, you know, you start to appreciate these things.
I still kind of remember the first time I was explained, it's so basic, they explained to me a major and a minor chord, how it makes you feel. Playing a major chord, it's just sounds happier. Playing a minor chord, just literally the third goes down. It sounds a bit more sinister. And you go, hang on, well, why?
Yeah.
It's so simple in that sense.
I guess you get a better appreciation for what the composers are doing.
Yes.
I think that's a perfect segue to the third point, which is learn an instrument.
Yes.
Pick any instrument. The violin.
Best instrument ever.
Yeah, if you listen to music and you learn about music theory, you appreciate the composers. If you learn an instrument, you really come to appreciate the instrumentalists. If you try playing the violin and you learn about all the techniques, and then you watch Hilary Hahn, that's a different level of
you like they make it look so easy.
Yeah.
So you just go in there and go likewise with conductors. I mean conductors something else. Top level make it look so easy.
You can kind of start hearing and seeing what they're doing with the phrasing, you know? Oh, she did a color change there.
Yeah.
The way she combined her vibrato with a bow speed to make that unique sound.
Yeah. And then you're trying to like look at it, how did they even do that? And then you try to replicate it.
Yeah. I think learning an instrument too, one cool thing is you go out and play with other musicians, and you also kind of experience the culture behind classical music, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I want to add, learning an instrument also makes it a bit more practical. You can kind of associate actual notes you're learning and translating it to something you can create. And then you kind of explore different instruments, how different instruments communicate with each other. How do we play this together in a way Beethoven wanted it?
Pianists have to figure out how they can make a crescendo.
They're pretty loud too sometimes. So the violinist is like, damn, like I'm struggling. Anyway, start learning more about it. And you're a lot more fascinated at how orchestration works too. Yeah.
I was thinking about why don't people get into classical music? Like, for example, if you ask me, why don't people get into Schoenberg 12th tone? That's a different story. Maybe that music's not will resonate with everyone, right?
Yeah.
I think there's 2 things, right? I think one is sometimes people feel intimidated. They don't know where to start, which is why we're making this video. Another one that I've noticed just from talking to a lot of people, especially younger, they're scared of getting made fun of. So I don't know if you remember, we're doing a semi-concert in a school, somewhere in Texas, I forgot. But there was this most adorable kid. He's like, oh my god, it's 2-step violin. And then it was so stereotypical, like one of those like bad movie scenes or something. 2 kind of like stocky looking rugby players just went, ew, did you say violin? Lame. I didn't even respond at the time because it was just so
But it was so like out of nowhere.
I was just like, I can't believe people actually said that in real life.
Yeah, it was a bit shocking.
But I thought about it. I was like, you know, we recently did a video with Rumi and his friend Jonas. He was talking about how he actually started learning the classical guitar, but then his school friends kind of just like peer pressure.
Yeah, it was went
to go into electric guitar. And so I think maybe part of it is peer pressure.
I never felt like you were the cool kid. You're not with the
I remember
cool
there was
kids.
these 2 kids, just to illustrate the point. His name was Chris. I thought he was a pretty cool guy.
Until
actually, his whole crew though, like I just wanted to fit in, man. They were so cool. And they played basketball as well. And I just remember that Chris guy was like, classical violin isn't real music. You're just a skills person. You don't make real music. You can't compose. You're just a performer. There's no art there.
you didn't make the sport. You're skilled. You're playing it.
Looking back now that I'm older, I feel like a lot of these times, these kids, well, they don't really know what they're talking about. How can you really discredit classical music as an art form if you don't even listen to it, right? Like, he doesn't listen to classical music. So if you are someone that's young and you go into classical music, just don't let it phase you. Like, it's fine. Especially online now, you know, this community that share the interest, and one day, usually when they get older, they realize
Yeah, I mean it's true.
classical music's superior.
It's actually good to find people that share the same passion with you. So I know when I was young, I always did these workshops. There's like these Suzuki classes in schools of everyone. So you kind of meet like-minded people. It's just, I just pretty much stay quiet the whole time at my own school.
You mean at your high school?
At a high school. High school.
With that said, if you are a musician and you have a friend trying to get into it, try not to like be too like, don't clap between the movements. I can't believe you did. Like, you know, we have our etiquettes, we have our things, you know, we make fun of Pachelbel canning. But if someone's making a genuine effort to try and learn, be supportive.
Yeah, like brought friends that are not classical musicians to a classical concert. They've been nervous actually. They're like, what do I do? So I'm like, relax, it's fine. Just make it easy for them.
Oh, I forgot. The most obvious way to get into classical music. Subscribe to two-set violin.
I was going to say practice.
Well, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
You subscribe to two-set, you practice.
Yeah, you have to practice. Now you know how to do it. Pick up an instrument, practice, and you already learned the instrument. You know the assignment.